want to thank everyone for joining us today. We are talking about our new reporting system. It is called CalWATRS. It's called, or it is the California Water Accounting Tracking and Reporting System. And today we are going to go over a few things. We're going to quickly go over some of what I think will be the key points that people are here interested about. We're going to talk a little bit about the background quickly, creating accounts, and connecting your record to this. We're going to talk about annual reporting, and then we're going to talk about some of the general features that the system has. As a note, we have a Q&A feature in the Zoom, so there is no general chat, but there is a question and answer feature. Please use that if you have a question. We'll also be pausing at the end of each of these major sections and looking at Q&A and seeing what questions there are. We'll try to answer them the best that we can at each of those breaks. We'll also have staff looking to answer those as we go as well. This is also scheduled for 2 hours. The main piece of this, I think we'll be able to cover in the first 45, depending on how many questions we get in each section. So we're going to try to save people time and get to the main features first, and then we'll have time at the end if there are more questions. We'll also have the ability to, assuming that nothing goes wrong with our connection, to do some live demos as well if needed. So my name, sorry, I always forget the introduction part. My name is Jeff Parks. I'm a senior engineer at the division. I am also the product owner for CalWATRS and have been involved in this development for the last 4 years. I also have Sam Warner and Sarah Kinnison with us that will be talking in a few other sections, and they can introduce themselves when they start their section. So first off, recognizing this is a big change for everyone. This is the way that most water right holders interact with the division each year, and meaning that you have to use this system. We try to make it as usable and as friendly as possible, but like anything new, it will take time to get used to. And for what it's worth, the staff side of the system is new too. This was an overhaul of both sides. So please, be patient with us. We're trying really hard to keep up with everything and to answer support questions as quickly as we can. But there is a lot, and we also just recognize that nobody really enjoys change all that much, and this is change. I already mentioned that there will be Q&A breaks, but please, as I'm speaking or others are speaking, go ahead and put questions into the Q&A portion of the Zoom, and we'll try to answer them as we go. If not, we'll take a break and answer them. All right.
I'm sorry to jump in really quickly.
Sure.
Could you speak up a little bit more? We're getting notes that some folks are having a little bit of trouble.
Sure.
Hearing. Thank you so much.
Is that better?
That is, I think that's better. Yes, thanks.
Okay. So talking about CalWATRS overall, and probably what a lot of people are interested in is, what do you have to do, especially for annual reporting this year? A lot of other things that CalWATRS does, but I think most people are primarily interested in annual reporting, and to do annual reporting, you need to join the new system. So a lot of people are aware that we have mailed out letters that have instructions for joining CalWATRS and also have a PIN. That PIN is different. So in past years, and unfortunately the word PIN, we've used this in previous years with the previous system, the CalWATR PIN is different. It is not the same PIN that you received in the past. It also does a different thing. In the past, you received a login and PIN combination for every water right that you had. In CalWATRS, that PIN relates everything that is for you. So if you have one water right, if you have 10, if you have 100 water rights, you probably only have one pin, and that one pin will migrate all your water rights. So if you have multiple, do not expect or be waiting for multiple pins. The one case where you may get multiple pins is if we had multiple versions of you in our system, which that did occur in our previous system. Sometimes there was duplicate accounts for people. You might not have known that that happened, but it may have. And in those cases, you may have multiple pins to get all your water right records associated with the new system. We have mailed most letters out. We sent about 12,000 letters out a few weeks ago. Those did not go out to organizations yet. So most of our water right holders are individuals. We have not mailed out the organizations letters. If you need your PIN, contact us and we'll provide the contact at the end of this. If you need to get in the system now, we will help you get connected. And hopefully most people that have reached out have seen that I try to quickly get you connected to your accounts. And the last part, just to reiterate, none of the old login passwords from the previous system work. There's a lot of reasons why, but the primary one is, we didn't have consistent emails for everyone across our system. And so we don't know who is necessarily coming in. The new system also relates to you a little bit differently. That we'll go into more about that later, but the bigger picture is that you cannot use any of your previous logins. This is new. Everyone will need to create a CalWATRS account. The purpose of having a PIN here is that that PIN connects this account you create in CalWATRS and relates it to all the records that you have in our system. So really quickly, I'm going to go over just how we got here. We had a real need for modernization. Yes, our previous system worked, but it was also a system that was built in 2006 and was just at the end of its technological lifespan. We also had changing conditions, aside from drought and other things that come up. We have new regulations that come up, and our technology behind our system was just not keeping up, and we were at the end of what we could keep adding to it. On top of that, we also have a umbrella project over this that is about modernizing the division overall. And a big piece of that is digitizing our physical records. I don't know how many of you have ever tried to access your or other people's physical files, but for most people, that requires driving down to Sacramento, which is a big burden and a lack of transparency for records that we couldn't do much about. But now with our new system, we actually are able to integrate digitized documents. So a side part of our need was that we needed to make our records more available to people. The other part of this is, as I said, this isn't just a new system for you. This is a new system for staff as well. It allows us to make much faster decisions on the data that we collect. Your annual reporting data and other water rights information that comes through. Staff now have a much more efficient way to even access that. And this, again, a lot of this project started from drought. It took us a long time to respond to drought conditions because it was hard to access our own data, and a lot of our own data was not very good. This new system will allow us to start collecting better data over time as well. And then the access part, you will have improved access with your accounts to access all your records. It's the first time you'll be able to see all your water rights in one place through your own accounts and file annual reporting all in one place. And the digitized records being able to see things that previously you had to access physically. And I won't dwell on this, but this was also a very quick project contract-wise in the state. It started it formally started March 2023. We had it done in about 2 years. That was starting with our contractor, Deloitte, and working working through building everything and pushing out to the public. Also, a rare thing for state contracts, we actually were on time and under budget, and we're able to apply the savings from this contract back to the system itself. This is also goes into the being patient with us part, because we tried extremely hard to stay. I mean, it was a lot of work to stay on time. That also means that we did not have a lot of wiggle room for making sure every single corner of the system was as efficient as possible. But our old system was at the end of its lifespan. We had to get a new system up. So I'm going to take a pause here and introduce Sam and let him take over. And he's going to talk a little bit about creating accounts in a new system and connecting records.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sam Warner. I am the testing and training lead here on CalWATRS and kind of Jeff's right-hand man here. So if we go to the next slide, the first thing I want to talk about is who needs to join CalWATRS. And the short of it is going to be most people who already have a water right or want to get a water right are going to join CalWATRS. We'll talk a little bit about agents and organizations in a second, but a big thing to note, and we've touched on it here, is that we used to send out usernames and passwords for every single individual water right in ERIMS. Those username and passwords are not going to apply to CalWATRS. And now you're only going to need one login, and your one login is for you, right? You don't have a login for each individual water right that you've got something to do with. So going to the next slide here, creating an account should be pretty easy. You just go to calwatrs.waterboards.ca.gov and click create an account here on the main page. It should be, fairly similar to if you're used to, creating a Facebook or an Amazon or anything like that. You've got to give us your name and your email address, and go from there. There's also, if we go to the next slide, a two-factor authentication. And I know that this is going to be a little bit annoying for some people, but it's rolling out to all state systems. So it's coming sooner or later. This just may be the first time that you're going to encounter it. But we do want to make sure to note that the phone option allows for a text message or a phone call to be sent, which means that you can use this with a landline. It's not required that you have a mobile phone. So one thing that's really important to note is, what if you have an agent, or what if you are an agent? And things here work maybe a little bit differently. We've already gotten some questions being like, oh, I'm an agent on this water right. How do I add their water right to my account? And as an agent, you will be able to see every water right that you are added as an agent on. And similarly, if you own a water right, if your agent has been added, they'll be able to see it. So you don't give your username and password to your agent and have them log in for you. They'll be able to see it. Now, for those of you who have already done some migrating or will come into the system, if you don't see the water right that you expect on, it may be because you're not officially listed as an agent for our records, in which case you can use a change of ownership to make sure that you get added as an agent there. So, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, and a quick note as well, because this is important. If your agent is in the system and reporting for you, you do not have to create a CalWATRS account. You are welcome to, but it works without it if your agent is in there reporting for you.
Yes. So, that's absolutely an important point, which is that, you don't have to create an account and give it to your agent. You don't even have to create an account at all if your agent is handling it. And even if your agent's not already added, they can file the change of ownership that says, hey, I'm actually supposed to be the agent on this water right. Again, you don't have to log in, create your account to do it if someone else is managing it for you. Now, if you're managing it, your own water rights, then you definitely will want to have an account. And of course, for people who are worried, agents can be added or removed or changed later. So once you have that water right, you don't think, oh no, it's stuck forever. I'll never be able to get them out of my water right. No, It works the same way. If you file a change of ownership, you can remove an agent, you can change it to a different agent, and it will automatically change who can see it and who can't. Now, organizations. So this is something that we didn't have at all in the ERIM system. So this is going to be something we're setting up for the first time, which is why Jeff mentioned that we haven't actually sent out the pins for this yet. We've helped some organizations on an individual level start to get into the system, but we are going to be expanding our rollout of information on how people can come in as organizations. But what organizations will allow people to do is say you've got a city, or you've got a consulting for something where maybe 7 different people need to be able to access the same group of water rights that the organization owns to be able to manage them. Well, they can all join this organization rather than having to create one login and share the username and password to different people. So the organization will own the water rights. The organization can manage its own members, and each person will have their own account that's for themselves. That's just a part of the organization that is acting on behalf of the organization. And it'll work from everything like a small trust where you've got maybe just a couple of people to large organizations with headquarters and branches and things like that. So we've got a couple of diagrams that show maybe a little bit of a visual representation of how this works. So this is a small trust. So, just 2 people, they're both members of the organization. And then in the system, the organization owns those couple of water rights. So both people in the organization would be able to see both of those water rights, and say Jane Doe leaves the organization later. John can remove Jane from the organization, and now she won't be able to see it. And if a new person comes to join, they'll automatically be able to see and manage everything. And so, like I said, this also works on a larger scale where you've got a sort of headquarters and branch organization structure. So if this is the type of thing that you're looking to set up, we can definitely help, but we're also going to be coming out with some materials to help people set up if they want to set up a more complicated structure like this. But we think this will really help reduce the amount. We're aiming for nobody needs to send other people their usernames and passwords. So how do I see my records? This is an important point. I know we've got some questions in the chat here already. So the migrate records pins are how you're going to connect records that you had in the old system to the new system. So if you've gotten that letter, or if you've gotten the pin by reaching out to staff for help, if for one reason or another the letter didn't come, right on the homepage when you log into CalWATRS, there is a migrate records button that you're going to be able to use along with that pin to get the records. Now, if you're part of an organization, it'll be a little different. When the organization is set up, you can use the pin that you've gotten right when you're setting up the organization to automatically give all the records to the org. And then you just have to add individual people as they come in and request to join your organization and say, John's in my org, Jane's in my org, and they'll automatically be able to see everything that the org owns. So different process for organizations and individuals. Individuals use migrate records. Orgs will do it right when they set up the organization. And they're one time. You don't have to do it next year. This is not a thing you have to do. This is just our one-time setup of going, hey, you're making your account in CalWATRS, connect your old stuff. And we have to do this because not everyone in our old system even has an email address. We can't create the account and give you a password. No, everyone's going to create their own password so that's secure. You control the full thing. You don't have to share it, but it'll be one time. I promise it's not too terribly painful, but even if it winds up being a painful process for you, it's one time and you'll never have to do it again. So I'm going to pass it back to Jeff here to give a little bit more in-depth preview of what annual reporting looks like.
And I'm actually going to pause there for a sec to take a quick look at questions before we dive in. And take a quick look. We'll talk about measurement devices in a sec. The anonymous, the reporting deadline. No, the reporting deadline is not going to be extended. Most people do not even file their annual reports until January. We understand that the system not being open has made it so that some people have not been able to get in as soon as they would like. There technically is no requirement of when annual reporting has to open. And I'm not trying to say that from a cold perspective of, too bad. Part of it is that we have regulations that require reporting to be submitted to us by the end of January. It's unclear if we have the authority to extend that. So for right now, we are not extending the deadline. There should be plenty of time for people to submit annual reports. There is also annual fees, or sorry, there's also a new late fee associated with late annual reporting. There is a 30-day grace period already built into that, and that does not start until March. Given all of that, we'll see how things go. I mean, I have already talked with our enforcement side of the house. Our goal this year is to get people to get their annual reports filed, not to punitively punish people for not getting in. So if we can see that you have been attempting to get in and get your annual reports filed, we will work with you. On top of that, we will also evaluate whether we can be lenient with late fees this year if you really are having trouble getting your annual reports filed. So we are going to be understanding and be as flexible as possible. For agents with clients, so here, I'm reading, you have several clients. How do you get those PINs? You don't need their PINs. And so it depends partly on what your question is. If you're an agent, you only need a PIN for yourself. You do not use your client's PIN. You use the PIN for yourself, the agent. If you have not been established as agent for those records, then you need to file it's worded a little incorrectly. It's a change of ownership form. It's within change of ownership form is also the ability to add agents. So it's not always literally changing the ownership of the water right. But there is a form to add yourself as agent for those. So you should not be using your client's PINs. You should only be using PINs that you have received for yourself. If you're asking about trying to help them get joined with the system and they have not received those PINs, then you can contact us and we can help you get the PINs for your clients. But please understand, you should not be using, in any case, your client's PINs, because that in effect would make you become them. You should be using your own. Similarly, looking at the question about individual PINs. So again, PINs are not by water right. PINs PINs associate what we know about you in the system. So the PIN is literally tied with your account. So if you have 5 water rights, that PIN is for you and your relationship as primary owner, as co-owner, as agent to those rights. So if the short answer is if you are not sure what that means to you, send us a help request. Also, we'll provide a link to some of our help resources, which will be growing over time as well, to try to get you some understanding of what it means to use the PINs in the system. Because again, this is not the previous system. You should not be using other people's PINs. It's about getting the system recognized what's associated with you. And yes, we will be covering viewing water right information in public at the end.
I did want to chime in, Jeff, related to what you were saying, that also in relation to being an agent on things. So you aren't an agent for a person. You don't say, I am Jeff Parks's agent. I now have access to all Jeff Parks's stuff. It's on a water right by water right basis. So if I'm on, A01234 as the agent, I can see it. And if Jeff also has, A05467, then I wouldn't be able to see that if I'm not on it. So it's on a record by record basis, whether you're the agent or not. So it's not like you have to give somebody blanket access to everything. So you don't give them the PIN. It's just about making sure that you file the change of ownerships as needed to make sure that everything you're supposed to be an agent on, you're listed as the agent on, everything you're not supposed to be an agent on, or that someone else isn't supposed to be listed as an agent on, that they aren't.
So, and then similarly, how organizations fit into that. The question about being an engineering consultant. If you're an engineering consultant and you have multiple people working within that consultant group, you would make the consultant group, the organization, the agent to those water rights. And then you can have as many employees, even if that term does not literally apply, but that's just what we use in the system. You can have as many employees with their own accounts connected to your organization as you need. Same thing for primary owners and others. The organization owns the water rights. You can have as many accounts as you need connected to that organization to manage those rights. So that's a way for multiple people on both the ownership side and on the agent side to see and access annual reporting and other forms. And I know we're primarily focused on annual reporting right now, but this is really for any form. If you're filing new water rights with us, pretty much all of our water right forms are now integrated in this system as well. And the question about how do we get an agent to do it? It's, we could provide a resource link of agents in the state. We cannot recommend an agent, but as long as you have someone established as your agent, you don't ever have to come in and do your annual reporting as long as you're sure that they're getting it done for you. I'm going to answer the next two and then stop. Can annual reporting be viewed by other water right holders in the state? Yes. Anything reported to us is public. All water right information is public and is publicly searchable, including annual reporting information. It has been like that anyone has been able to for the last 50 years to go into our records room and pull up records. Even with our previous system, you could look up anybody's information, and we have on data.ca.gov reported direct information for at least the last decade or so. But yes, and all water right reporting information is public. And then the last one I'll stop with, and I'll pick up. All right, sorry, I'll ask the next two, but then I'll stop. If you're part of an organization, should we not create a login yet? You can create your CalWATRS account at any time. It just won't have anything in it until you link it with a PIN. So, and the account you create in CalWATRS is for you yourself. So you can create that account at any time and then contact us and we can help you get it connected to what needs to be connected. If you're part of an organization that already exists in the system, you don't need to recreate that organization in the system. We'll connect you to what already exists. And then the last one real quick, is this program for both surface and groundwater rights? Very generally, this is for surface water. There are a few groundwater programs that the Division of Water Rights handles. But if it's not something that you have already reported with us, such as our groundwater recordation program, then this is not adding anything new about groundwater. This is not for GSAs or Sigma. This is only for what the Division of Water Rights specifically handles. So if it's not a specific program that we already have dealt with involving groundwater, then no, this is not adding anything new. Okay, I'm going to pause there and then I will pick back up. I'm going to go into annual reporting and do just a quick overview of what annual reporting looks like. We do have a document in our resources page that goes through filing an annual report. This one is specifically for appropriative rights, but most annual reports are similar. We'll have a version of this for riparian statements coming out soon. It's very slightly different, but you should still be able to get into annual reporting and get through it with this guide for now. The first thing is when you log into the system, how you access your annual reporting, there is a button. It depends on what kind of device you're on. if your device is relatively small, you may need to scroll down, but there is a button that says My Annual Reporting. When you select that, you will see any records that you are either owner or co-owner or agent for, depending on what your specific water right relationship is. You will access that, and let me actually switch to, I'm going to switch to an account, a test account, and I'm going to show you live what this looks like. I think that might be a little bit more helpful. Or, make sure that do that. So I'm in a test account now. So what I was just talking about, this is what it looks like when you're logged in and when you are connected to an account, or I'm sorry, to water rights. If you log in and you have not used a PIN or otherwise had staff migrate your records, which a side note as well, if you're having trouble with the PIN part of this or the just in general, making sure you're seeing your water right records, whatever that may be, agent, primary owner, you can contact us. We can get you connected from staff side as well if it's really becoming a problem. But once you are connected, you are able to see your water rights in the system like this. It apologize, maybe this account was not a good one to use. So in this case, I have an appropriate water right associated with this. And in here, this is what your annual reporting screen will look like. You can also, so just noting, this is also the same way that you can file or amend previous year's reporting as well. It's not just about this year's report. You can go back if you're missing previous year's reports, you can file them in here. You can, and this is how you can also file a new one. I'm going to start a new one. Also note this is something else that's new. You in the past you could not withdraw a version that you had started before. In this one, you start a version and you don't want to complete it, you can withdraw it. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I just want to give people a sense of what annual reporting looks like in the new system. There is this landing screen that generally gives you all the different sections in a report. Starts with the basic information where here it is going to verify a couple things. It's going to, tell you which application it is, ask you if you need to make any changes due to ownership. This, it's just a summary of what exists. You can't literally change your ownership here, but if you need to, it'll at least tell you how. If you mark yes, it will tell you, give you more information about how to change your ownership. It'll ask you, and in the real system, this is the test side of the real system, it'll provide a link here to a copy of your permit or license if this is an appropriate water right. If we have a copy of your initial statement for repairing or pre-14 statements and claims, it'll have a copy of it here and ask you if you are currently in compliance. You can provide information if you want to talk about why you feel you maybe are not in compliance. The bigger picture too as well is these are not new information as far as we're not asking you anything different than what has been asked before. The only thing that's different is how that information is submitted to us. So, previous to this, we asked these same things. If you had types of uses, it asked information about that use. I'll note here that these fields are not required right now. So if there is something that does not make sense, so in here, if you're in here, if you, for whatever reason, you can mark that you did not use it. There's a save button over here to make sure that you're saving the information entered in each field. If one of the questions being asked does not make sense to you, do not worry about entering it. Our goal again this year is to get your annual reports filed. We will work on better instructions and on what is actually required in each annual reporting in future years. So again, my goal, and I probably will say this too many times, I just want people to be able to get your annual reports filed this year. That is my primary goal. We will improve the questions. We will improve the options within here over time. I don't want people to get frustrated because the type of crop that you grow is not listed in here. There is other, there's a lot of options in here. There you could put other, and you can add something yourself if you wanted to. But if this is frustrating you, provide the information that makes sense to you. I'm not trying to tell you to provide false information, but I also don't want you to get stuck on something that doesn't make sense. You are going to be asked about what you diverted in the past year. Hopefully everyone is aware that this is for the past uses. This is for, at this point, 2024 through 2025. There is a question here that talks quickly about, or this is meant to lead you to provide the right information. So, the three options are: I diverted surface water, which that means diverting, directly diverting or diverting the storage. This allows you to report information each month. There is an option for that you did not divert water, but you used water stored from a previous year. This probably doesn't apply to too many people unless you have a very large reservoir. And then this option, which is also very important: I did not divert or use any water during this period for this water right. It's going to ask you to describe why, but what this does is it also zeroes everything out. Not that this is meant to be a annual reporting best practices, but reporting zero is a valid annual report, and you are required, even if you did not use any water, to file an annual report that says you didn't use any water. This is a way to do that very quickly. If you say I did not divert anything, it zeroes everything out and just asks you to give a quick reason or a little bit of information about why you did not report any or divert any water this year. And I know there's a lot of reasons why people did not divert. Also note, I'm going to go back. Best practice is to navigate using the controls on the bottom here. There's also these save sections. This is something that we're looking to improve. Our system will improve over time, but for right now, when you do enter information, and I apologize, it's not fun to watch someone scroll up and down. When you do enter information, you need to select save in each section to make sure that that information gets saved to your report. You'll see that it gives you a little information or a little pop-up there that says that it was saved. The other general things is if you want to return to that section screen where it tells you each part, it will tell you what you completed, how far you've gotten, and it'll let you jump back in. It also, it makes you go in order. So you can go back to a completed section or to where you left off. You can also, when you're in a section, you can just say, I want to exit out of this altogether. Down at the bottom here, if you do save and exit, this will take you out of it completely. You can leave, you can log out, you can pick this back up later where you were. You just need to navigate back to that same screen. It's just important that you use that save and exit at the bottom. Every time you click next, it does save it, but to ensure that it's saving up to all the information that you have currently provided, make sure to use that save and exit at the bottom. So that's just like a really quick, this is what annual reporting looks like. They start giving you a sense of what you'll be doing. If you have multiple water rights, you'll be able to choose which one in here that you're going to report for. Also note that, so in here you can see that there's multiple statements, and then each one, it gives you a really quick, if any reports need to be filed, you can go further into each of these to look at the individual years for this water right. You can also see at the top here, there's 4 general sections: the appropriatives and registrations, statements, groundwater recordations, and groundwater cessation. These, if you know what they are, then they will apply to you. Most people are going to be in the annual or the appropriative registration and the statement section here. Back to the slideshow real quick. So, I covered this generally, but it's not new information. It's how we're asking it that's changed. The other big change is measurement devices, in that measurement devices are now managed outside of the annual reports. You're able to update that information anytime you need to. You're just providing that, the data about that about that measurement device within the annual report itself. And I did see a question about uploading things. We'll talk about that in just a second. I do also want to talk a little bit more about measurement devices specifically. So I'm going to turn it over to Sierra here.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sierra Kennison. I'm an engineer with the Division of Water Rights, and I'm going to briefly just talk about the measurement reporting regulations. This is SB 88. Many of you may be aware that the Water Boards has been revising these regulations over the past year, so I'm just going to briefly touch on where we are in the process and what the next steps are. So as part of the rulemaking process, we made revisions to basically 3 regulations. That would be the appropriation of water, annual reporting, and the water measurement. So 2 of these have already gone into effect as of September 26th of this year. So that's the appropriation of water and the annual reporting. So basically the changes made here are just annual reporting is now done through CalWATRS, and you need an email address to register for a CalWATRS account. And for those of you with groundwater recordations and file notices for groundwater extraction and use, reporting is now in line with the water year instead of the calendar year. So now it matches all other types of annual reporting. And like I said, these ones are now effective as of September. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So Chapter 2.8, these are the water measurement regulations, the SB 88 regulations. These have been delayed. I know we have previously messaged that the regulations, all of them would take effect October 1st. That's what we were expecting. We ended up making a few extra changes to this section. So it is not in effect yet. In fact, it's still available for public comment until Friday of this week. But just to briefly touch on this, Chapter 2.8 is the SB 88 water measurement regulation. It's the part that is still ongoing in the rulemaking process. The goal of our updates here is to clarify the regulation, put it in plainer language, improve readability, but mainly it's to standardize the measurement data that's submitted to the board. So under the previous and currently existing version of the regulation, it allows diverters to submit data in pretty much any format. And then under the revised regulation, diverters will be required to measure specific parameters and submit the data using specific data file templates that are available in CalWATRS. So I mentioned that it has been delayed. It is not October 1st of this year. Most requirements have been postponed until October 1st of next year. So you don't need to worry about it at all for the current water year. But if you would like to submit a public comment, again, you have until Friday to do so. And I'll go over the main dates on this slide. So here's a timeline of different aspects of when the regulation will go into effect. For most diverters, you're going to follow the top block marked all diverters. And then the lower block is a set of additional requirements for the largest diverters. And these are people who divert more than 10,000 acre-feet per year or more than 30 cubic feet per second. Previously, those were called telemetry requirements. They're now rebranded as large diversion requirements. So as I mentioned, most things will go into effect next October. That is October 1st, 2026. Until then, it's business as usual. The only difference is you are now using CalWATRS. So you're still measuring as you were measuring before. You're still submitting data as you were before. You do not need to use the templates this year. But you'll need to start measuring according to the updated requirements, October 2026. And that data will then be due January 2028. So it's a very phased approach. You don't need to worry about it in the immediate future. A couple other dates that I want to point out. Oh, sorry, can you go back for a second? Thank you. In January 2027, certain forms will be due. And so these forms include the device registry, the measurement methodology, alternative compliance plans. And it's basically just provide information about how you're collecting data and how you're interpreting that data. But again, those will not be due until next January 2027. And then for the large diversion requirements, I'll touch briefly on those. So these require basically weekly reporting of data. For the time being, it's business as usual. October 2026, you will measure according to the updated requirements, but you can still use your existing websites for where you're posting your data. You will not be required to post to CalWATRS until October 2027. So again, it's a delayed, phased implementation. October 2026 is the main start date for most requirements. Next slide, please. And then if you'd like more information, I told you this would be a very quick overview. Here's some useful links. The top one here is our rulemaking webpage. This is if you're interested in figuring out what the actual text of the regulation is, any explanations. We have a statement of reasons of why we've made changes. The next link here is the actual website for the regulation. So this is just to explain what the requirements are. I do want to note that it's talking about the current state of the regulation. So once the new one comes into effect, everything will be updated to talk about the updated regulation. And if you have any questions at all about water measurement, here's the email address, dwr-measurement@waterboards.ca.gov. And this is also where you can submit written comments for the regulation, which again are due by Friday of this week. So thank you, Jeff.
And so I believe we said it at the top, but we will provide a copy of this presentation so that you'll have all these links. They'll be on our resources page. And also just reiterate that some of the things here I was talking about, like January 2027, all those forms will be submitted through CalWATRS. So again, it's a good reason to, even if you have someone reporting for you, it may be but you still are interacting with forms or interested in submitting forms, you eventually will want to create your CalWATRS account. You may not need to for this year annual reporting, but there is a lot of other things that will be submitted through CalWATRS in the future. It's not just annual reporting. But I'm going to stop there again and return to the Q&A. And great. Okay. The measurement device section only allows for uploading 3 documents. If you need to, and Sierra, you can tell me otherwise if you want, but there is a general upload section in the annual reporting. So if for whatever reason you are running out of places to submit uploads for measurement device specific uploads within the annual report, there is a general upload page where you can attach as many documents as you want to the annual report. There's also a comment field that allows you to add comments about, your annual report and what you upload. So I would think, and here I defer to you, but if you have more things that you need to upload, would that make sense to put them there?
Yeah, I think so. So for this year, since the templates are not required, it's just upload the data. If you're using the template, you can use the template option. If you are not using the template, it's the other data files section. And then there's also, if you just have more things to upload, the supplemental documents is fine.
And I would just say in general with any reporting, even if it's not about measurement devices, there are a few different places to put in comments about, generally about what the information you're providing. If you're getting stuck on something and are not sure if you're providing the right things, provide some explanation in the comments so that staff can see that. Our goal is to see that you're attempting to comply, not again, we're not looking for gotchas here. Necessarily, we want to see that you are at least recognizing that, I'm trying to provide this information. I'm not sure the best way. Here's what I have. You can upload it in a couple different places. Just taking the time to explain that is a lot more than a lot of water right reporters do. So we want to see that you're working on this. You establish an account, put 2 pins in. There is a process. So if you put in 1 pin, it automatically goes through. If you put in 2 pins, then staff have to approve those because they need to make sure which one gets the account ID. And so if you put in 2 pins and you haven't heard back, I apologize. I'll do a quick review after this and make sure that those are going through. We did just are coming off a holiday weekend, and so it may be a little bit behind on catching up with those. I'm not 100% on this question linked to prior reports. If you're asking how do you get in and file or amend previous year's reports, you can do so in the system. You can go all the way back. If you have not filed for the last 5 years, it'll give you the option to file back reports for the last 5 years. If you have submitted reports further back than that, you can amend any of them. So I will note that if you amend an old report, you will not be able to amend it using the format it was submitted back then. You will have to submit it in the new format. If you're asking about a PDF of previous reports, let me go in and I'm going to share again in here. So in the system, so if you're asking about previous reports, you can either amend or you see there's a download PDF button. Any report, you can create a PDF on the spot. It can even be a report that you have not finished filing. It will create a PDF of the information up to the point that you have filled it out so far. So if you want to go back and get PDFs of any of your previous reports, you can do so within the system. So here you can see that this particular statement we've got records back to almost when we first started electronically collecting and reporting. So, 15 years worth of records in here. You should be able to see anything that you've submitted electronically to us in the system. In just a sec, I'll talk about where the public side of things are, and I'll show you how you can find this information for not just yourself, but for anyone. That for anyone that, again, all our information is public, and so it is searchable even without a CalWATRS account, and that's what we'll be talking about in the next section. Jim, I don't know if you can put in another version of that question, just because I'm not sure about agencies for a quick about water accounts also with the PIN. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there. Similarly with the next question, if yes, as much as we can with the time we have available, I will get to all the Q&A chat questions. We have several parcels owned by different people. Is there something we should do different? The real question there is, are you listed on those water rights? If you are agent on all the water rights for all those different people, then you have access to all those, and you can submit measurement devices that make sense. I'll also note that measurement devices can be associated with multiple water rights. I know there are situations where points of diversion are shared, or there's otherwise complexity of, not only multiple water rights, but sometimes multiple owners all sharing a measurement device. So the short answer is if you are listed on a water right, you have access to them. If you need to associate a measurement device and then that measurement data with multiple water rights, you can associate the device itself with as many water rights as needed. And then within those annual reports, you just need to clarify what portion of that data that you're reporting actually belongs with the specific water right that you're reporting. I have water rights in 2 different trusts. When refused to list them under 2 different ownerships, if you we can, especially with our branch structure, if you send a help request and tag me, or you can mention me in it, I will help you get this set up. I apologize for any miscommunications with ownerships, but we could definitely get it so that you have access and are also able to manage water rights under both trusts using one CalWATRS account. How far back in previous water reports can you amend? As far back as they were electronically submitted. As I said, if you're missing annual reports, so if I know there's some cases where for whatever reason annual reports were missed, sometimes 5-10 years back. We have created the past 5 years. So if there was no annual reports on file for an old water right, you are able to file up to 5 years in arrears. That makes sense. So basically you're able to make up annual reports back to 2020. If you need to file annual reports further back than that or amend them further back than that, you can contact us and staff can work with you on that. Because I'm sure there may be cases where that is needed, but there also, there's questions of I know there's a lot of different circumstances out there. So the short answer is work with staff and we can help generate an annual report for you to file. Generally, though, annual reporting goes back as far back as you have electronically submitted them, which for some people can go back as far as 2008. I know at least for people that have been filing consistently, it should go back to about 2010. If you use multiple wells to irrigate, how do you want acres reported? If that's a question about the beneficial use, supplementary questions, report what makes sense to you. I know there's a lot of different situations, so it's hard to give very specific advice. My general advice is report what makes the most sense to you. In general, though, those beneficial use questions it's not about what was diverted, it's about where that water was used. So in that case, if you're irrigating, it's asking about how much land was irrigated. It's kind of agnostic at that point about where that water was taken for, if that makes sense. Is there a way to filter water or filter which water rights I have reports still do? There is, but we're also looking to improve this. So you can sort that table. I know Sam, I think Sam's typing in there. We are also, this is an improvement I'm trying to make. If people have been in the system and seen on their general water rights screen, there's a lot of different ways to sort through that. Your water rights in general, I'm trying to get that added as quickly as possible to the annual reporting screen as well, so that you can sort through annual reports in a variety of ways, especially if you have a lot of a lot of water rights that you report for. I know that there's needs to go through those quickly. Is it just monthly use or daily use? Everything in annual reporting is about monthly use. If you need to report information because of measurement regulations on a time scale more than monthly, or more granular than monthly, that is where you upload that information to us. There is no way to report daily information to us. And again, this is where this is not fundamentally changed. We've always asked for direct diversion to storage, and use amounts at the monthly time step. I think the next question is about alternative compliance measuring. This is where, so alternative compliance plans, you can file those in the system. If you had them existing, we tried to migrate them over, but though you may need to refile them. Though anything you filed in the past, it didn't disappear, it's still with us. This is where, use your best judgment on what needs to be reported in the measurement screen. This is you know your water right best, and you know what your alternative compliance plan is best. I will note though that the Delta alternative compliance plan, which uses OpenET, that is a much more specific system that is integrated in our system. It is not live for reporting yet. It will be soon. That one, those specific alternative compliance plan adherents are able to have their usage automatically filled in with OpenET data. Where does it show riparian rights instead of appropriative? I can share, let me share the screen again. So in general, you've got two types of water rights, appropriative and statements. I know that's being and this is not meant to be a legal definition of water rights here, but just in our annual reporting system, it shows you both appropriative and statements. So statements would be the riparian or the pre-14. Appropriative would be the A type, the registrations. Let's see if this loads again. I don't know why it wasn't loading. I am on the test side of the system. Frustrating. It should be showing all your water rights here, and this is where I was also showing that there's multiple ways to sort through this. If you have multiple, your water right type will show you the what your water right is. If it starts with an A, a D, those are appropriative. If it starts with an S, that is riparian. So in the just overall water rights view, it shows everything, all your riparian and your appropriatives together, but you can break that out into the types, statements, and maybe this part of the question, our shorthand for riparian type water rights is statements. That's short for statements of water diversion and use. Extracting underground water is reported always to the state. I mean, this is a complicated question. And this isn't meant to be a groundwater management discussion. Division of Water Rights has always reported surface water diversions. So, I'm not trying to dodge that one, but this is the groundwater management is a much more complicated statewide issue that could, either I would reference groundwater sustainability agencies or the Statewide Groundwater Management Act for more information. Large diverter on a single water right basis or organization basis. Sierra, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. So the simple answer is it's a little bit of both. If you have a single water right that authorizes over 10,000 acre feet per year of diversion or more than 30 cubic feet per second at any time, then that water right itself is subject to the large diversion requirements. But if you, as the owner of multiple water rights, have a single point of diversion, and that's shared by multiple water rights that you own, and at that point of diversion, more than 10,000 acre feet per year or more than 30 cubic feet per second is diverted, then that point of diversion is subject to the large diversion requirement. So it's not every point of diversion for every one of those water rights, it's just that one point of diversion. But if you have a single water right that on its own crosses that threshold, then that water right is subject. So it's a little bit of both.
And similarly, there's a question about can large diverters telemeter in CalWATRS now? And the short answer is yes, with a few different devices. It's not available for any device. I suggest reaching out to the measurement team, and because we have a specific telemetry team as well that worked on that. If you are interested in trying to connect your telemetry into CalWATRS now. I will note though that even if your telemetry is connected, for now you are still responsible for filing annual reports. So just because you have telemetry information live connected to our system, that doesn't negate your need to file annual reporting. I don't know, there may be a point in the future where we're able to make that more efficient. But for now, even at that point, you still would need to file your annual reports. When completing CalWATRS diversion and use, this year we do not submit our daily diversion measurement template until 2026. So I think that the cleanest way to say this, and Sierra, you please correct me if I'm wrong, is if you are currently required to submit daily information, you are still required to submit daily information. We provide templates within the annual reporting system. You are not required to use that specific template to submit that information. We are suggesting that you use that template. It's how we prefer to receive that data. But that's the part that's not required. You're not required to use our specific template. You can provide that daily diversion data. If you're already required to submit that, you can provide that in your own data format for now. Will our device be transferred from our old reports to a new account? Yes, they should be. If you're not seeing them, let us know and we can help troubleshoot that for you. More or less what we did is we took the most recent annual report, most recent version of any device from any annual report and created a new record for that. And there is, let me share the screen again real quick. I will show you exactly where you will find those. So again, you scroll down, most tiles are down here to get to where you need to go. There's this My Measurement Details page. This is where you will see your devices. The measurement device ID will be the same as what it was in your previous system. And this is where, especially since that specific question, this is where you can enable telemetry if that applies to you. This is where you can manage devices, where you can edit that information. You can manage related water rights. You can upload documents. So there's a lot of information that you can file directly from your devices, but this is the where of where devices are now managed. And this is also where, so in this case, you can see that there are 3 devices associated with this one water right ID. When you file an annual report for that water right, it will pull in all measurement devices related that you have related to that water right ID.
I do want to add on to the measuring device question. So the form for measuring device registration under the current existing regulation, it has been modified slightly in what's included in the updated regulation. Most of the questions are the same. There's like maybe one or two questions that were taken out and one or two that's been added in. So when I had mentioned that the updated device registry is due January 2027, that just means going in and updating to make sure all required questions have been completed.
The water rights received this year will not be reported until 2026. Correct. So if you are filing, say, a statement now, or are otherwise in the middle of permitting a water right now, if that permit became active this month, because water right reporting or water use reporting is always in arrears, you would not be reporting until 2026. So yeah, that is correct. Sierra, I don't know if you know about the self-certification, the UC extension, if there's going to be any updates to the certification program.
We will be reaching out to the UC Cooperative Extension to make sure that their course is aligned with the updated regulation. But for the most part, most requirements of the regulation are how people are measuring is going to be very similar to how they've measured in the past. It's just calculations at this point. So we will be reaching out to Larry to make sure it all aligns.
Okay, if research is being done on water rights per parcel, how can a third party get information on the water right allocated to a parcel? So I'm going to partially answer this, but I'm also going to use this as a point to transition into the next part, because I want to show you a little bit about looking up water right information in general, which you do not have to have a CalWATRS account to do. But for your specific question, this is a tough one because water rights are not allocated to parcels. And it gets complicated quick, but you could argue that riparian water rights go hand in hand with parcel, but statements of water diversion and use also cover pre-1914 water rights. And again, this is not meant to be a legal course in water rights, but I have been in water rights for over 20 years. There's a lot of things covered under statements of water diversion and use, including pre-14s, which may or may not be strictly related to a parcel or multiple parcels. Additionally, appropriative water rights, part of being appropriative is because they, in many cases, don't fall under what is allowed with riparian use, meaning they could be in lands, multiple properties, whether that fits with parcels or not. So, it's very hard to equate water usage strictly to parcels. The other part of this that is hard is that one of the things that is not digitized is places of use. That is a longer term goal to get places of use digitized. At that point, you could probably do some one-on-one matching of where water is used and parcels themselves. But until then, the public information available it would be very hard to do that exactly. That said, you could find points of diversion and do your own analysis on where points of diversion are and associated land use. But water rights in California is very complicated. There's water diverted in Northern California that is used in Southern California. That is, it's also very hard to match points of diversion directly with where the water is used. So I'm going to show you exactly where you can find information. Actually, I'm going to start a new, I'm going to start a new window just to show you that this is something that you can do completely without having any account. So if I go to our page, This is our live page. Sorry, I'm just trying to move. So there are a couple different things that you can do as far as viewing records in our system. This records and documents link up here. Record search and document search. These are, so you can, similar to what you could do in eRIMS, you can find information on a variety of things that's publicly available. So someone had asked earlier, is your annual water use reports public? Yes. So in this case, I selected, I want to look at annual water use reports. I could, there's a variety of information that you could use to sort. You could pick a specific year. I'm going to pick 2023. And if you know the water right, if you know the owner, if you know the watershed, these are all things you can sort by. I'm going to pick a simple one. I'm going to say I want to see all water use for 2023 in Placer County. And this is going to generate a very quick report that is going to show all, so it's going to show the reporting year, it's going to show the water ID and the owner, and then it, sorry, my screen is just a little small. So it is going to show the total diversion amount at the end here. And so you can use this to quickly sort. One thing that was asked earlier, how do I sort by any given thing? If you see at the top, this works both inside the system when you're logged in and also outside. Any of these tables, you can click on them to quickly sort by that column. So in this case, if I wanted to see who used the most water in Placer County in 2023, it was NID followed by PCWA. And you can also export this information directly. You can search for this in a lot of different ways, and this is just for annual reporting. You could, search by county. You can search by water right holder if you know who that is. I'm going to go back to this search, and if I want to go into water right information, similarly, if you know who you are looking for, you can find things, or if you know what county you're looking for, or let's say I am looking at the Russian River. So in here, I just want to find all water rights on the Russian River. This is going to give me a list of all water rights that are filed. You can see the county, and you can from here, you can go a little bit further into it. See, so you can click on any given water right, and it'll tell you who the owner is, provide more information. It will provide you a map of where that water right is. It will also give you details of any documents associated with that water right and any annual reporting details associated with that water right. I am in the real side. Yep, I'm in the real side of the system. Talking about documents. So, we had said that we're digitizing documents. You could do a similar search for any documents in our system. Now, it is going to take a while to fully digitize our documents. And so we're prioritizing right now by watershed. If you put any water right ID in here, it will provide you documents related to that water right. And most water rights have at least a few things. So you can see in here, they have annual reports. Most water rights have all their legacy annual reports from our old system in here. They also have what's called key document summary, which for most water rights is a copy of their license. And so, this is all, again, you don't need to be logged in to have this. Anybody can pull this information. I don't know if you saw that pop up. I apologize. I don't always know how screen sharing works in here if you see the pop-ups, but that document, when I clicked it, popped up. You can also, and this is something that's, I think, pretty interesting for document search is you can search by keyword. So everything that's been scanned has been run through a system that pulls out all the words in it. So one of the watersheds that I know that we focused on was the Navarro River. So if I just said I want to see every document that has the keyword Navarro River in it, you can see that right now there's 88,000 plus, almost 90,000 documents associated with it. And you can go through here and you can sort this in a lot of different ways. But this is just an example of where this is information that used to only be available by coming down into our system. We've got full record files now digitized for these water rights, and I think we're working on other watersheds next. Let's see. The other thing I want to show is the map viewer. So we do have the ability, if you want to do a similar thing, so parcels were mentioned. Even though parcels are not always the best way to view a water right, I know that a common question we get is I'm looking to buy a property and I'm curious if that property already has any water rights filed with the state on it. So this gives just kind of a statewide view where you can see just where water rights are, these clusters. If you knew exactly where you were looking, you could put an address in here, you could put a location in here. So in this case, I'm just going to say I want to see what's in Fallen Leaf. So it'll zoom in and you can see that there are water rights located here. One of the things you can do is there is a parcel layer. So you could turn on the parcel layer and I can now go in and I can actually see kind of that question, I see that there's a point of diversion on this parcel. You can also see that, if you were interested in looking at one of these other parcels, is there a water right on it? Well, there's, just because there's not a point of diversion on it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't have a water right, but this is at least a resource to start looking at questions like that. You can, in here as well, you can also look, if you know a specific water right that you're looking for, you can go directly to that. It will show you where that water right is and or where the points of diversion are, but it also has this more information button here where you can dig into some more details about this water right, including this is a different way to visualize annual reporting. So in this case, this is an MID water right that I am looking at the diversion amounts for 2024. So, it's a very quick way to kind of look and visualize, and you can also download data directly from here if that helps. So you can use this to also look through public records to get an idea of what's going on for any given water right. Similarly, you can search by a variety of things here. So, another good tool. Let's see, I'm just going to return to the presentation real quick because I want to make sure that I covered all the public pieces. We showed, this is the main login page. We talked about the document search and the maps. Another thing is if you're filing new forms in the system, you also similarly have the ability to plot your features directly on a map within those forms. So this is another enhancement where, plotting your point of diversion, plotting your place of use. This is something that can be done directly in new applications. There also is the ability for staff to provide a way for existing water right holders to provide this information. We don't have a specific use for that yet, but it is something that if needed, we could ask users to provide information about their existing water right. In, like a place of use is a great example. If you needed to draw that for us, you could do so directly here. You can also upload shapefiles if you are working directly in a GIS system. You can upload shapefiles and have them populate in these tools. I know it may be lost for people with only, 1 or 2 water rights, but this is, we talked about the pins and migrating. Once that's done, you see all your water rights in one place. If you have 1,000 water rights, which I know, maybe not everyone does, but maybe you're an agent that represents 1,000 water right holders, you can see all of those in the system for the first time. And in the previous system, you had to log in for each and every one of those water rights. I did talk about those digitized documents. I encourage people to go poke through and see what's there already. And I did mention this, for what it's worth, the staff side of the system was completely overhauled as well. And an example of a use of that is every time you send a help request to us, it gets logged as a case in our system. I know that may be lost on people that have said, hey, I've sent you multiple requests and I haven't gotten a response. I do apologize for that. It's, this transition has been, a resource strain, and we're working to improve on that as quickly as possible. But for what it's worth, there's a copy of everything that you've sent us in our system. We can't ignore it. We have it sitting there telling us that we have not responded to you. But this is also something that will make us much more efficient once our staff get, up to speed with the new system as well. In general, I people have already been reaching out. I see a lot of very familiar names on this webinar. Please continue to reach out to us. We will get to you as quickly as we can, especially if you have a larger or complex organization. So some of the folks that, had talked about needing to access multiple organizations, or having more complex issues of, how do I access water rights for a lot of different users. We will help you get connected. I think a lot of cases, it may not be as easy as just saying, wait for your letter and get your PIN and it'll work out. You may need us to help you get it set up. And again, it should be a one-time thing. Once you're set up, you're good to go, but that setup may, require some assistance. Especially for, and I know this was one of the questions that I saw, if you need to file an annual report for someone else. In the previous system, you could just log in using their information. In this system, it's very hard and not meant for you to just log in as someone else and file things for them. To do so, you need to be their agent, which may mean that this year people may need to make some requests to be added as agent, even if that is temporarily to help people get their reports filed. That said, I have seen multiple requests for a solution to have people be able to get access to an annual report, just to help people get their reports filed and maybe not be as explicit as an agent. I don't have a clear solution for that right now, but we are working on that. We'll figure out a way to get through this year, and we'll it may be next reporting season when we have a cleaner solution for that. But either way, we will work with you to make sure this works. We also have our resources page that is growing. If there is a specific piece of help that you think you could benefit from, let us know, and we can work on providing guidance on that and providing a document for people to reference. And I did see that there's some things to go back through. I will show, I will go through live and show a little bit of how to migrate really quickly to make sure that that's clear as well. And thank you for being patient, waiting until this point in the webinar to go through that. I probably should have covered that much earlier. And again, this information will be provided, but when you have copies of this, you will have our help request, our resources page, and our general information page as well. I'm going to stop there and go back to the questions. And then I'm going to answer a couple questions, and then I will go in and demonstrate some of the migrate records. So for a specific water system, if you are, it sounds like you're saying you're the chief operating for the water system. What the main thing you need to do is make sure somebody within that organization joins it first, which it sounds like it may be you. If you join that organization using the PIN or with our help, that will make you administrator for that organization, and you can also help other folks also join that as well. And I will demonstrate that in just a little bit. But the main thing is getting at least one person associated with that organization, and then you can, it's a lot easier after that to get others into that organization, able to access the same records. People with no measuring device. I mean, I guess the main question would be, how have you reported water usage in the past? And I know this isn't a live back and forth, but if however you have been reporting water, I would continue to report water that way. Of course, I have to point you to the measurement regulations to say that, this is what is expected of you. I would also suggest you reaching out to the measurement folks specifically to make sure that they are helping you to the best of their ability, and that you understand to the best of your ability what is being expected of you when reporting water usage. So I have a question about a pond. So if you're talking about how much water is stored, so the main thing we're looking for in annual reporting for people with ponds is how much water was diverted to storage in that pond. Which, for not to make just a measurement talk, but for ponds that are on the stream itself, that may mean just measuring how much the water level of that pond changes over time. So there's a lot of different ways to measure usage. Recreational usage is always an interesting one, in that the use of it is the water being in the pond. I don't know the best way to report that you used it for recreation, but the fire usage, again, if you're able to tell how much the water level is going up and down, you should at least be able to generally report water usage to us. Term 91 curtailment, that is still continued to be reported. The compliance with Term 91 is still in the previous system. Yes, we are working with the Bay Delta team to get that integrated into CalWATRS. So it will be in CalWATRS in the future. I don't know the exact timeline of that, but that is something that we will work with them on. ACPs, alternative compliance plans, and we have PDF copies of what was created for alternative compliance plans previously. So to the best of our ability, we will attach them to your record. It looks like in the future, you may need to provide updated information about your alternative compliance plan. I do know that those need to be updated anyways. I believe every 5 years. So Sierra, I saw you come on. Please correct me.
Yeah, so I believe in CalWATRS, we will be importing your existing alternative compliance plans. Similar with the device registries, the forms themselves have changed a little bit. Some questions have been added, some have been removed, excuse me. So you have until January 2027 to make those updates to your ACPs that have already been filed. And the way the regulation is written, the updated one, anything that you have existing will technically be invalid starting October 1st of next year. But you can basically just update and submit the revised one. The reasoning is that since the measurement requirements have changed slightly, your explanation of how you're measuring may be changing slightly. So it's just updating the form. And I also want to point out that in the existing regulation, alternative compliance plans need to be renewed every 5 years. That will no longer be the case. You do not need to resubmit an ACP every 5 years. We just ask that you go in, look at it, make sure that it's still up to date. And if it's not, correct it so that it is up to date.
Thank you. Question about, it's like someone's already found that when you're querying large volumes of records, it limits it to 1,500 results. We are getting much closer to being able to publish what we call flat files. And I don't know how close we are to providing direct API connections, but we are going to update our information that is filed with data.ca.gov, which will allow you to essentially download our whole data set for any given thing and then refine that as you need. Again, I don't know an exact time estimate of when we'll have updated information published to data.ca.gov. We usually publish there at least once a year. But yes, we will have a way, and then a direct API connection. In the future, we'll have more advanced querying tools, but not this year. So my advice would be to first wait for those data.ca.gov information to be updated. Also, if you have a specific query that you're interested in, we could probably help you. We could probably help you figure that out and get you maybe a direct output for that. Conditions on a water right permit registration. When you go into your annual report, you should be able to see that. The only reason you wouldn't be is if that, for whatever reason, has not been scanned in. But as far as I know, about 99% of water rights have, at the very least, their license scanned into the system. So if we get time, I will show the migration, and then I will also, if we have a second, show you exactly where you can see that. A measurement question about a location that you don't access very often. The short answer is you have always been required to release report information to us, meaning that you've always had to provide at least some way of estimating your water usage to us. So if you've owned it for over 30 years, you should have been reporting water usage to us for that same time period. I think the short answer is, however you were reporting and estimating your water usage in the past should be the way you're still using it now. Obviously I encourage you to read measurement regulations, but it sounds like you're probably not using a large amount of water, and so make sure that you're applying the right expectations to how you estimate your water usage. for the data summary graphs, they are displaying whatever the most recently submitted information for that year is. So if they have amended their report, then it would be showing that information. It's similar to the previous question about, getting a full data set query. We can provide information about all data reported, but we usually go through the most recent amended report. That is the information we consider to be the quote unquote real information. If you've amended your report, we're not necessarily looking at your superseded reports. Non-consumptive diversions, that is a great question. As I said before, 0 is an appropriate amount to submit. So beyond anything, I encourage people to keep their water rights active. If you're not sure or it's non-consumptive, I would report 0 and make sure in your comments to make it clear that it is for non-consumptive use, that any staff evaluating that can see that you are complying with your water right rules, and that the usage of the water is potentially, I know there's a lot of cases where in-stream use or fish and wildlife protection is a use. So water is not actively being diverted for that necessarily. So that is an odd one to report, as far as that is technically 0, but it is in use. So that's where I really encourage making use of those comment fields to explain. It doesn't have to be a huge explanation, but just a quick note, this is non-consumptive use. All right. I am going to switch over and show really quickly what the migrate record process itself looks like. So if you let me grab, apologize, I'm going to stop sharing, or I'm going to pull up a new window real quick. Okay. So here is an account that hasn't been tied to anybody. So there are 2 options for migrating records. The first one is if you're an individual, meaning you have water rights under your own name. The main way you're going to migrate records is using this, so I just scroll down a little bit. There's this migrate records form. Click on the let's begin. You may see improvements over time, like we are, streamlining some things where you don't have to agree to certain things that are information that we have provided elsewhere. The PIN we provided will be submitted here, and I'm going to I'm sorry, you all can't see it, but there's things in my way when I'm trying to I'm going to just grab a pin randomly. I apologize if well, actually, I don't want to accidentally share people's information more than I need to, but what you put in your pin here, and when you put in that pin and click add, it will show you which water rights that are being migrated with that. Now, I'll note, because I've seen some help requests related to this, I am working with our contractor to get it fixed, that the associated records is not always populating correctly. It's not always showing all of them. I advise to process your PIN, meaning click submit, and then going back to, once that has processed, going into your home screen and checking your water rights to see if all your water rights have come through. If you have processed your PIN and you're not seeing all your water rights, contact us and we will figure out where that is. Sometimes there are, as I said, multiple versions of you within our system. Not something you did necessarily. That's, database management over time on our side. We will get it figured out. You can also migrate multiple pins here if you did get multiple. Organizations are slightly different in that you're going to go up into your account settings. Another way to access that is down here. They both go to the same thing, my account settings. If you are part of an organization, you're going to go into organization management here. And for most of you, you are going to be an existing organization. So, if you already have water right records under an existing organization, you do not need to re-enter this information. You want to say that you're existing. If you have a PIN, when you put that PIN number in and you click search, it should show you the name of the organization. If that doesn't match, contact us and let us know. We'll help you correct that. If you got multiple PINs as an organization, also contact us and we will help you get connected correctly. A lot of people, though, and this is the how you would join an organization if you say you're the second person coming in, somebody in your organization has already joined. You can also search in here, and so you can see in here, if that's the organization that you're going to join, you can click submit, and it will send a request to whoever is managing your account. If you are already managing an account, it looks a little bit different. Let me switch to the test side. Sam, I'm going to call an audible. I don't know if you have a test account that has organizations associated with it that you know of that I can grab real quick.
Yeah, here, I'll send you the info in Teams.
Apologize for that. Save that. So in here, I'm going up into the profile. This is someone that is already associated with an organization. You go into organization management, you'll see it looks a little different. So this is what people within an organization will see. So here we were just testing out something, and you can see that you could see the members in here. And so this person is the administrator for it. When other people want to join the organization, they'll show up here in organization request. The people in your organization, you can also, there you can remove them, you can edit their roles. There's a lot of things you can do here. You can also, within here, water rights associated with this. But this is the how of how you actually manage organization. And the one note in here is that administrators for a organization, all that really means is you are the person that can approve others joining, and every organization can have 2 administrators. The only real difference is those are who are approving that, yes, these other people requesting to join are also part of it. You can have as many people as you want as members of an organization. Everybody that is a member all sees the same information, meaning that they can all file annual reports. They can all take other actions on water rights. They can go in and they can file new water rights. So if they needed to file a new statement of use, you can start that in our system directly. All our forms are there. And as employees, everyone would be doing so on behalf of the overall organization. As an individual, again, that's where what matters more is your relationship, meaning that if you are a primary owner, you will see all water rights that you are a primary owner or some type of owner for. You could also have multiple relationships to multiple water rights. The main thing, though, is that you can only have one email associated with one account. You can't use an account to mimic multiple people, if that makes sense. You can't log in and access multiple things if you're not an agent or otherwise have a relationship to those water rights. So there may be a little bit of data cleanup during this transition, which again, it's a one-time thing, but it's probably ultimately good in that we're cleaning up our records of who is associated with any given water right. I also expect that there's going to be a lot of places where changes of ownership will be needed when joining the system because our records were just old. That older system of being able to use that same password every year to log in and anybody could use it, while it was easier, it was very it was not necessarily secure, and it also did not tell us who necessarily was accessing any given water right. It's a lot more explicit now. So I know it's maybe a little bit more frustrating at first, but I think it will make sense once you get in there. So I see the question about an employee. You should not be using an individual PIN because once someone has joined the organization, you don't need PINs anymore. The PINs is really about being the first person to link an account in CalWATRS, if that's an organization. If you're an individual, it's about associating yourself with your records for the first time. Once you're established in the system, you don't need those PINs anymore. It's really just about this one time getting you associated with anything that from your old records in the system. The last question about getting a notification in the system, again, it was not our intent to have things not always working as expected, but there are some notifications that are popping up that don't always make sense. We're working through them as quickly as possible. You're always free.
I popped in and just asked them to send me the details, and I'll work on getting that fixed.
But just as a general heads up, again, it was not our intent to have things not working correctly, but like any new thing, there may be things that happen unexpectedly. Let us know. If you're able to take a screenshot or how to take a screenshot of something that doesn't look correctly, please do so because that helps us immensely in figuring out what is going on with any given situation. And all right. A situation where you may be the primary owner and the agent because of potentially some record management over time, definitely contact us and we'll get it corrected. We'll get it corrected. If so you have a couple options. You could get the water right put in the name of the trust as well, and then you and your siblings can all manage it, as needed. Or you could all be co-owners on the water right itself. So either way, it would be a change of ownership form, which, if you create an account in the system, we will make sure you get linked to what that form is. We can also connect you with the team that manages those to give you the best advice on what to do. So you're not unnecessarily filing a bunch of forms. We want to help you get it correct. But we will get your ownership corrected.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
It looks like we've answered all the questions in the Q&A. There is one person has their hand raised. I know we weren't necessarily going to do that because there's just the one. Do we want to let
Sure.
Milton ask their question? So Milton, you should be able to unmute now and ask your question if you're still there. And folks, we're not at this point, we're 3 minutes out of the webinar. We're not trying to invite people to raise their hands. I was just trying to get the one person who's been up the whole time. So please try and put your questions into the Q&A box and we will answer them. Milton, this is a last call. Can you hear us? Nope. Okay. Looks like it's not a problem, Jeff.
All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone sticking with it and listening to us. Hopefully it hasn't been too painful. And we look forward to hearing from you. We will get you in the system if you're having issues. But otherwise, hopefully you can see this as exciting, and that this is a new and will be a better way to manage your records. I really appreciate everyone sticking with us this year. I do know that there is a lot of questions about the reporting deadline. It's not lost on me that has been asked multiple times. So just stay tuned. And then in the meantime, please, do your best to get in the system. And thank you all.